Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. There is so much to get through on today's show. The news just keeps coming and coming and coming, and it's looking like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might be back at the wheel. Straight away, there's a poll going on in the community. Would you take Ole back, yes or no? I mean, would it be on an interim basis? Would it be permanent? I'll get my thoughts on that very, very soon. We've got loads more to get into. There's been a lot of reports on behind the scenes during Amorim's tenure, and what does that say about the ownership, about the board? Stuff coming out about Jason Wilcox that blows my mind. It really, really does, and I want to get into it. Also, an update on Mainoo's future and some really interesting details coming out about the Semenyo saga and how Manchester United failed to get Semenyo, why we failed to get Semenyo, and just so many different things coming out around everything that's going on in Manchester United. Right now, it's a mess. It's a mess. And honestly, as a United fan right now, I really want to try and be positive, and what I'm clinging on to is I'm just hoping somehow they are going to find the right person to bring in to lead Manchester United to success in the summer. But from what we've seen and the evidence that we've seen so far of INEOS' time at Manchester United, it's really, really hard to believe that that's going to happen. But I'm just hoping it will. I'm clinging on to hope right now. But I feel like, as a United fan now, I feel like I've just been dropped in to like a desert with wild animals and I'm trying to find my way through it. I genuinely feel like that. It's like there's stuff coming at you from different directions and you just don't know where to go. You don't know how to get to safety. You don't know how you're going to get to the end of the tunnel. And right now there's so much going on and I feel like we have to come together as a community, you know, to try and get through this, because I've said before, and I got a few comments actually on my show yesterday, and I saw a few people commenting on Mark's 8 o'clock show about how I was saying that Ruben Amorim was sacked because of his results and his record and not because he spoke out against the board. And that's not really what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is I would hope it would be because of his record and the results and his 38% win record and the fact that the performances are pretty poor, the drab. It's not good to watch. I was hoping it would be because of that, but it probably is because he did speak out against the board, and that's something I wouldn't really like to happen. And I also went on to say, Ruben Amorim, as much as, you know, you can kind of commend him for having the confidence to go out and say that and make it clear to the United fans that he wasn't getting what he wants and it's not just all on him. I think he gained a lot of respect off a lot of people for doing that. To do it and succeed in doing it and get the backing, you've got to have evidence behind you. Like I said, even Ten Hag had the trophies to hang on to. Mourinho had evidence behind him. He had the Europa League. Amorim didn't have anything to back him up. So, yeah, I don't like the way he went out. I really don't. But I actually think he probably knew the end was near. And especially with a lot of the news articles that are coming out now, it seemed like he thought to himself, I'm not going to get backed here. If I'm not going to get backed, I'm out. And he found a way out. So there was tensions rising all throughout the week. David Ornstein said he got told as early as Thursday, keep an eye on Ruben Amorim, he could be gone. And then we had the Leeds game on Sunday. He's gone on Monday. Ruben Amorim would have known that his future was on the edge. That's why in them press conferences he was going out swinging, because he knew it was either back or sack, and he probably knew he was going to get sacked. So he wanted to make it clear it's not just all because of him. And, you know, Ruben Amorim being sacked in this way, there's not as much focus on the fact that he failed at Manchester United in terms of performances and results. Why he failed, multiple reasons. I think he's got to look himself in the mirror and think about his tactics and how he couldn't get the best out of certain players and how he couldn't tactically adapt. But also a big, big part of why he failed is because he was brought into a Manchester United side which was not at all equipped to play his system, and he wasn't going to get backed. And the ownership made a big mistake. There was loads of mistakes made along the way through, you know, from top to bottom at the club, and a lot of people at the club have a lot to answer for. So what I was trying to say yesterday is, I wasn't trying to say, you know, it's all Ruben Amorim's fault, because it's not. There's multiple people at fault for this, but we've just got to get it right. We've got to get it right with the next guy we bring in. Would I like it to be different people picking the next guy? Yes, I would. But we can't change that. And as much as I'd want to, we can't. So we've just got to kind of look at the future here. But speaking of the future, I've got the poll running and I want to get into it. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there's a lot of news coming out around Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Would you take him back as Manchester United manager? So I'll read out what's coming in right now as per Fabrizio Romano. And Fabrizio Romano has been all over this in the last 24 hours. He has said Solskjaer is ready to take the caretaker role. It's not all about the money or the contract. He doesn't care. He would love to be back at United to help the club in this difficult moment. The club are deciding internally. And then also, SAMC Reports put this out. While players are naturally aware of the uncertainty surrounding the situation and what may come next, it is understood that the changes have not had a significant negative impact on the squad. Several former players have been in contact with the club to offer their support, helping stabilise the environment during this transitional period, including Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Johnny Evans. There are a lot of people who want to help to get the club back to where it belongs, one source told me. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has offered his services, according to Fabrizio Romano, according to SAMC Reports and multiple other reporters as well. Johnny Evans, it is coming out from BBC Sport, is set to return to Manchester United as interim head coach Darren Fletcher's assistant. By the way, Darren Fletcher's press conference as the interim Manchester United manager is at 5 p.m. today. I cannot wait for that. I really cannot wait to see what he has to say and see what the mood is in that press conference. But Johnny Evans is set to accompany Darren Fletcher in his role as his assistant. He's going to be on the sidelines with Darren Fletcher. What do you think of that? But it's very, very clear from everything that Fabrizio Romano's putting out there that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is willing to come back. Even if it's just for interim, he's offering his services from now until the end of the season. He just wants to see Manchester United back at the top. As Romano said, he's not bothered about money, contracts. He just wants to help United and help the club, even if it's a caretaker role. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer back, yes or no? Do you know what? I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, actually, because there's a lot of affinity with Ole, and Ole has a special place in all of our hearts. I mean, we won the treble because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I sing that song every week at Old Trafford. Ole scored a goal in injury time. You know, as a player, he's absolutely loved. And as a manager of Manchester United, it's probably the most exciting football we played post-Fergie. If you look back from post-Fergie to now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the football we played was the most exciting to watch. It was. I'm going to see what your votes say. A lot of no's, a lot of getting back. I saw Ginge say, bring Ole back. I saw him react saying that. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of United fans saying, get Ole back, get Ole back. Just because, you know, the vibes are good and the football was good. And we've been starved of good football and success for so long. The United fans are just, you know, they just want to see good football. They want to see a good atmosphere. So that's why I think fans are like, get Ole back, get Ole back. For me, it's a head versus heart situation. My heart says, bring Ole back, bring the vibes back, get the band back together, let's play good attacking football and let's go and beat City. Get him in for the City game. My heart says that. My head says, it didn't work out. For whatever reason, and people talk about we shouldn't have brought Ronaldo back at the time, I really struggle to see that Ronaldo is the problem. In hindsight, at the time, I kind of agreed with that. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have brought Ronaldo back. But now it's gone on for years and years and years. What he did in that United side was absolutely brilliant, and I don't think you can ever say Ronaldo is the problem. He's an absolutely fantastic player. So I don't kind of get on board with that. But for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Yes, he had higher finishes than a lot of our recent years. Yes, he was literally a stone throw away from a Europa League. I mean, that penalty shootout, it still haunts me. It really does still haunt me. It was against Villarreal, I think, wasn't it? That penalty shootout. And he was nearly there, Ole. He was nearly there. But if I was to bring him back now, I'm going to give my honest opinion. If it was a caretaker interim role, I'd welcome him. If it was a permanent job, it would be a no from me. And as much as I love Ole, I just don't think we should be going back in time. I think we should be moving on. And plus, when Ole was successful in his previous stint as a Manchester United manager, it was with the likes of Carrick and McKenna. It was very well known that Ole was the manager, but Carrick and McKenna very much led the training and the coaching sessions. And that setup won't be the same again. So would he have the same success? It's a very different squad. I actually think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not when he first started off, but as he left Manchester United, had a much better squad than what he's got now. And the only worry as well about getting him in for a caretaker role is if he does really well, which he probably will, like look what he did last time he came in as a caretaker. The vibes are really good, we're scoring goals. you know, there'll be pressure. There'll be pressure to keep him on permanently, and we could go back into the same cycle as we did last time. But look, at the time, we were criticising Ole because we were the nearly men. You know, we were the nearly guys. We got so close to City. We finished second, and we got so close to Europa League final. I think more than once, actually, but we just couldn't get it over the line. He didn't win a trophy, which kind of held him back a little bit. And then the results started to fall off a cliff a little bit in that season where we all thought, I think I predicted us to win the league that year. It was sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it got taken out of context. But, you know, we just bought Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo. I was thinking, come on, Ole's going to do it. But it just all kind of went down the pan then, didn't it? And I don't know. I don't know if take two, it would be any differently. However, if you told me now a second place finish in the league, I'd be like, come on. His second place finishes, though, it wasn't competing for the Premier League. The Premier League winners were very much clear out ahead. So for me, Ole is a caretaker, open to it. Ole is a permanent manager. It would be a no from me. I think we have to steer away from that of going back in time, and I think we've got to move on into the future of Manchester United. But let me know what you guys are thinking, what you guys are feeling. I'm just having a look at the poll here. Ole back, wow. So we've got we've just got over 4,600 votes and counting. It's nearly up to 5,000 votes now. And it's 50% yes and 50% no. Wow. A lot of people are desperate to see some good attacking football, and I do not blame you. I do not blame you. Our standards when we had Ole in, the reason he got sacked is because we actually had very, very, very high standards. If Ole was doing what he did then now, we'd be building him a trophy, honestly. So, yeah, the standards have dropped over the years significantly, and Ole would absolutely, you know, bring the vibes back. I suspect we would score a lot more goals. The atmosphere would be better, but I just don't think he could ever go to that next level, which Manchester United need to aim to do, which is, you know, win Premier Leagues and win Champions Leagues. But anyway, what I did want to bring in is I saw a tweet on X from Anil Kandola, actually, and I thought it was an interesting point of view to bring in. So this was his tweet. He said, "It's so clear what INEOS are doing if they turn to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even on a temporary basis. It will give them protection from any criticism from former pros, given the fact that Ole is an old teammate. They'll play on the emotions of Manchester United fans, which will again deflect criticism aimed in their direction. I really hope Manchester United fans can see exactly what Sir Jim Ratcliffe and co are truly like," which is something I've said from day one, Glazers 2.0. So we had a very strong, very, very strong opinion on the ulterior motives maybe behind INEOS bringing Ole back in. I don't think they're doing it on a permanent, but I can see his point of view of bringing Ole back from now until the end of the season. Does it deflect criticism that's coming their way because they are enduring, rightfully so, by the way, a lot of it right now. They are weathering a huge storm. A lot of Manchester United fans are very, 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 very disappointed in their tenure since they've come in. So, would it? Well, we all know when Ole was in charge of Manchester United previously, you know, he's got friends in the media, and you're not going to throw your friends under the bus. Look, if my best mate was managing a football club and I'm talking about them, I'm not going to sit here and slag them off. You just don't do that. You know, Roy Keane was never going to do it. Gary Neville wasn't going to do it. You know, the pundits that were friends with him in the media just were never going to slag Manchester United off because of their affinity to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I can understand it from their point of view, but maybe INEOS would feel like that would give them protection potentially in the media. However, I don't know if it fully would, because you could criticise the ownership without criticising the manager there, which has happened with other managers as well. But it's a really interesting take that I wanted to bring in and see if you guys agree with it. I mean, Daz Childer just said, isn't Fletcher in the same position? Potentially. I mean, I saw reports earlier stating that apparently Darren Fletcher has had a dream to become Manchester United manager since 2019. And do you know what? People are taking the mick out of it, but why not have a dream to be a Manchester United manager? If you're, you know, working tremendously hard to be a manager one day, you'd want to manage the biggest club in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world with Real Madrid, in my opinion, the biggest club in the world. You'd want to manage them. And a club that you support, you love, you would want to. It doesn't mean he should get the job just because he wants to manage Manchester United, but I don't think you should ever put someone down for having a dream. However, Darren Fletcher, of course, is out of the same pool as Ole. He's an ex-player. You know, he has got an affinity to the club. He knows the club. And I don't think Darren Fletcher will get the job on a permanent basis. He's got the interim job for now. Let's see how well he does. But it's been put out there, and I'm hoping it's the truth, and that is that Manchester United currently have a plan to have Darren Fletcher in post for, it's not really got a date on it, but as an interim role, and then they will appoint a permanent manager in the summer. That's what they've said. So I don't think there's much chance. I won't say any chance, because who knows how well he'll do and whether there'll be pressure to keep him on. But I don't think there's much chance that Darren Fletcher will become the permanent manager of Manchester United. I think it's probably too early for him. But the interim job is there because, I mean, there's not many people to pick from behind the scenes, and he knows the club inside out. And I think based off who we've got behind the scenes, for Darren Fletcher to take the interim job for a few games, I don't think it's the end of the world. If they came out and was like, he's now permanent manager of Manchester United, I'd be like, okay, so what are the credentials? What can he do? Let's see. Like, I'd be thinking, wow, that is a big, big move. But for a few games, I don't see why that is a massive, massive issue and people are frustrated with it. The main thing I'm concerned about is who is going to be the permanent manager come the summer, because you better do your due diligence, you better get it right, and there better be thorough research with a clear alignment from top to bottom. And that's whether the clear alignment even, you know, knows properly what is right for Manchester United, because I question whether the people above do know what's right for Manchester United based on their mistakes since they've come into the football club. And there is quite a lot of them. There is quite a lot of them now, and the fans are pretty annoyed at how these last 2 years feel like nothingness. And it feels like it settles back. It really does. And we needed to keep moving forward. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you think about the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer stuff. It's now on 51% no, 49% yes, with over 6,000 votes. And as well, Johnny Evans coming back into the club. He's going to be a helping hand to Darren Fletcher. And again, I wouldn't get carried away with this. It's just going to be for a few games, I think. If it ends up being till the end of the season, it's because they're doing quite well, but I doubt it'd go past end of the season. I really, really do. But apparently, according to Romano, from today onwards, they're looking for permanent solutions from now until the end of the season. So I don't think the plan is to have Darren Fletcher in there from now until the end of the season. I think he's good enough to take it on for a few games, just like Ruud van Nistelrooy did. But their plan is to have Darren Fletcher for a few games, then bring someone in for the interim role from now until the end of the season, and then get a permanent manager in the summer. So, like I said, it's like wading through a safari desert. You've just been chucked in out of nowhere. You've got a blindfold on, and God knows how you're going to get to safety. That's how it feels right now. Soyam Jaker says, I'll take Ollie back since the Glazers don't give one about the club. They just sack managers, so bringing someone back is something new. Lol. The Matrovi says, why are we talking about managers? It does not matter anymore. Focus on the owner and the board. Look, there's only so much you can say about the fact that the board have made multiple wrong decisions since they've come into the football club. Dan Ashworth, getting him, I don't think was a mistake. I'd love to know what Dan Ashworth has to say, because I think he was the only one who really knew what he was doing when he came in. So getting Dan Ashworth, I don't think was a mistake at all. But they waited a long time to get Dan Ashworth. What was a mistake was having a big blowout and getting rid of him just because he didn't agree with you. That's not a good look, and it didn't work out well. He was opposed to getting Ruben Amorim in because he knew how that squad wasn't suited to Amorim's system, and he knew how much money it would take to change it. But they just brushed him aside, someone who actually has a lot of history in the footballing side of things, brushed him aside, got rid of him, paid a lot of money to do so. That was a big mistake. Going around shopping for every manager under the sun before deciding to keep Erik ten Hag was a mistake. Sacking Ten Hag a few months after that was a mistake. And then getting Ruben Amorim in to play a 3-4-3 and then not backing him to play a 3-4-3 and then trying to get him to change to a back four before sacking him, and only sacking him really because he spoke out against the board when he actually should have been sacked weeks before that, because you knew you weren't going to get him the plays he needed and he was never going to get the results sticking by the way he wanted to play, which is what he was going to do, and we actually had a good set of fixtures ahead of us to go and secure Champions League football, was a mistake. So there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes and fans are frustrated. However, they're not going anywhere. And I know that sounds really bad to say, but they're not going anywhere. And what I'm choosing to do, I'm choosing to try and have hope that we're going to learn from this and we're going to make the right decision when it comes to the next manager. And some people might call me naive and some people might say, Beth, they're not going to. Look, I'm trying to be glass half full. I love Manchester United to my core. I go every week to Manchester United. You know, I've literally loved them since birth. I just want to see them do well. And it devastates me to see the position that we're in. But I need some sort of hope to cling on to. And what we can do is talk about what manager's going to come in next, and we can kind of discuss that. We can discuss the board, but it's not really going to change much. So it's frustrating, and I think people should be vocal, and I think people should absolutely be able to say their opinion. But I'm trying to choose to focus on things that we can change to make this club better. Ashley says, good attacking football with Ole. When will you lot change? We never ever challenge for titles if we don't get rid of everyone from the top to the bottom. And to do that, we've just got to be ready to suffer. This fan base is just... We've been suffering for 14 months, Ashish, if not before that. Josh the Giant Slayer says, Ole ball was boring and Moments FC. Absolutely no. Away says, mark these. De Ligt was out because he fell out with Amorim. An ex-player, 90% Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, not Fletcher until the summer. Vivel and or Berardo will be the next to leave. Well, there's loose reports, and I don't know how good the source is, that INEOS are open to getting in a new director of football, and who knows what that would mean for Jason Wilcox. By the way, I've got something to bring in that was reported by Laurie Whitwell on Jason Wilcox towards the end of the show, so remind me to do that because I found it staggering when I read it. Skinner Rat says, Ole is so underappreciated, it's unbelievable. You forget he had Woodward above him. Arteta was allowed to do a full rebuild with a competent board. Do you know what it is with Ole as well? And of course, you know, we love Manchester United and it doesn't mean we're qualified to do the Manchester United job. Ole's obviously a lot more qualified than me. I don't know about your credentials. But I saw yesterday people compare the leaving video of Ole where he was nearly crying, or basically was crying, and then Amorim walking down the street yesterday and he had a spring in his step, like he was buzzing. You know, to have that affinity to the club, you truly do care to its core. Amorim, it was a job for Amorim, and I'm not saying he didn't care for the club, because I think he absolutely did, but he cared more about sticking to his principles and the way he wanted to play, and he's ended up being sacked because of it. But Ole really, truly does and did care about the club. It doesn't mean that he's qualified to bring Premier Leagues to Manchester United, though. As a caretaker, though, I think he could do a job. You know, that's kind of his role within the football club, isn't it? He was great as a caretaker last time. He was great as a caretaker, but as a full-time job, I just think it is a little bit too much for him. If we want to win the biggest trophies. Desire Labonte says, yes, make it worse, bring Ole back, will be cherry on top of the cake, can't believe our fans has a fall down that low, very sad. Daniel Thompson says, hope you're well, Beth and the United stand, good stuff on Sky Sports News in the Arctic weather. Sir Jim, INEOS say best in class, and that's what we need. Who do you like as the next manager / head coach? Thank you, by the way, Daniel, thank you very much for that. Yeah, I was out at like 8 a.m. this morning in the absolute freezing cold temperatures. It's like a blizzard before we went out there. But in terms of who I want as a manager and head coach, it's really difficult to even answer that question. I don't think there is a standout candidate as of now. I've said this on the show, but everyone laughs. In my dream world, it would be Luis Enrique. That's my dream world. But I don't think we know that the owners of this football club don't want to pay, and they'd have to pay. And I don't even know if you'd be able to get him, to be honest with you. Manchester United still has a huge pull, but I just don't think you'd be able to get him. But he'd be my dream. He plays really good football. He's an excellent coach. He's got a great CV. He demands respect. I think he ticks every single box. Out of the other managers we've been linked to, I really like Areola from Bournemouth because it's entertaining football and I want to be entertained. You know, he will go and outscore. Yeah, he'll concede a few, but he'll go and score loads of goals. I think what he's done with that squad, when it's been ripped apart over and over again because, you know, they keep selling players and he has to start afresh. And the squad that he's got and what he's got out of it, I know they've gone through a bumpy patch at the minute, but I just love his style of football and he's a brilliant coach. And if I remember correctly, there was a big Spanish club in for him, I'm pretty sure, quite recently. I was told that he'll probably end up going back to La Liga, but I really like Areola. The only drawback about Areola for me, which worries me, is that it takes a big, big personality to go into that Manchester United dressing room and stand on that Manchester United sidelines. And I just don't know if he has the authority to go in there as a Manchester United manager. It's a big step from Bournemouth to Manchester United. His football and his coaching, I think, is brilliant. But does he have the personality to go into Manchester United and get that working at Manchester United? I'm not sure if the job would be too big. I'm not sure. But he's someone who I really like the way he plays football. And that's a big thing for me. A big thing for me now is going to Old Trafford and actually being excited. You know, getting off my seat. Having a thrilling game to watch. That's what I want to see. Ashif says, we are back where we were over and over again, going in an infinite loop. Our fans will have once again trashed the manager and we'll be here again soon. Luke Schofield says, the fact of the matter is the managers capable to take on the job are currently in other jobs, Emery, etc. We all know INEOS haven't got it in them to get an elite manager. We'll probably go for someone we can get for free because we're cheap. Owen Ollie says, let Ollie steer the ship until the summer and make a plan meanwhile on who you're bringing in. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that's what we'll probably end up doing. Philosophy says, Ryan Mason just got sacked by West Brom. Wouldn't be surprised if INEOS go for him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Carrick, though, could be a good... Ollie might... If Ollie comes back as interim, there might be too much pressure if he does well to keep him on long term. Carrick might do a good job as an interim until the summer. He's got experience. He did well as an interim for a few games previously. He could do well as an interim. Anil Sekak says, happy with Tuchel, okay with Pochettino or Fletcher. Big no to Ollie. We started playing long balls without any structure under Ollie and it still continues. Man plus Qatar says, honestly doesn't matter who we get. And Nick Giordano says, Ollie the best manager post Sir Alex Ferguson. I'll come back to more Super Chats in a second, but I want to get this news in now about Tuchel, Glasner, Mauricio Pochettino and Adoni Areola, who I just spoke about actually. How funny, how coincidental. What do you, guys, by the way, get your comments in. What did you make about my shout about Areola? Do you like him? Do you think he's got the presence to be a Manchester United manager? Let me know your thoughts. So, this is what Rob Dawson put out. He put out an excellent article. I think it was late morning, so today. It was an excellent article. But he said, United, according to sources, are keen to look at managers within the Premier League. They want managers with Premier League experience when they make their permanent appointment. Names in the frame include Thomas Tuchel, Oliver Glasner, Mauricio Pochettino and Adoni Areola. So, straight away, and you might not want any of them, but let me know what you're thinking. Out of Tuchel, Glasner, Pochettino and Areola, who would you want? I've seen a few people saying Marco Silva. Right, I like Marco Silva's personality, I really do, and I think what he's got out of that Fulham side is great. I don't know for United, his football isn't the most thrilling. Like, let's be honest. Is it because he's at Fulham? I don't know about Marco Silva. I've always liked him. Like, I like his interviews. I like the way he speaks. I think he's comedy gold on the sidelines. I really do. But I just don't know for United. I don't know if it's too big of a step. I don't know. It's hard. There's no one that really stands out. So I've got... Let me read some of the comments now. Tuchel or Ancelotti? My dad wants Ancelotti. That's my dad's first pick. He says, I don't care if he's 66. Bring him in. He demands respect. He's won trophies. No players will be able to turn on him, and he thinks he'd do a good job. What's your thoughts? Emery, we've got Areola, we've got Tuchel, Glasner, Areola. Oh, someone's just put Ange Postecoglou. Can I block you? I won't block you. You're allowed to have an opinion, but oh my gosh. Honestly, I was speaking to someone this morning. I'm actually going to I'm putting a YouTube video out and it'll be included in it. But I was speaking to someone this morning and they said, they're not a United fan, by the way, but they're within sports media. And they said that they think Southgate should get the job. And I looked at him and I said, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. He was like, he can make the best out of what he's got. And I thought, no. Look, with Southgate, I know there's been murmurs. I don't think United will do it. And look, like I said, I want to see exciting football. I want to get off my seat. I've seen enough with England that it's not going to be exciting football with Southgate. It's an absolute no. Shut the door on it. Absolute no. A few people have said Xavi. For me, I don't think Xavi would get the plays he needs and the backing he needs. So for me, currently, it'd be a no. A lot of people saying Conte. Look, Conte is a brilliant personality and he's a personality that Manchester United would need. But I do think his football is slightly negative. I'd still take him. I would still absolutely take him. But I just don't think the board would ever bring in a personality like that. We've got loads of different shouts. And that's how you know that there's no clear standout candidate right now. Because I've asked the live chat and there's so many different comments coming in. What I can say is nobody was saying Mauricio Pochettino. And I saw Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes actually do this on their podcast. And me and Mauds did it yesterday, actually, when we filmed our Hot Takes video and did like a roundup of the last 24 hours outside Old Trafford. If you've not watched it on the United Stand yet, make sure you go and give it a look. And we did this, like a quick fire, would you take these managers, yes or no? So Thomas Tuchel, would I take him? Yes. Oliver Glasner, would I take him? 50-50. Mauricio Pochettino, no. Adoni Areola, 80-20. That's where I'm at. I can't fully make a decision. It's really, really difficult. I like Adoni Areola. I don't know. I still can't even come out with it. If it was, I am swayed towards Adoni Areola, but I just don't know if it's a big jump. It's a big jump to be a Manchester United manager. That's all I'm saying. We've got more super chats coming in, but before I do them, I just want to give you an update on the Mainoo situation at Manchester United. It's been a whirlwind around Mainoo as well in the last 24 hours. The like on the Instagram, people aren't happy about it. I mean, what do you guys think? So this is what is coming out around Mainoo now, though, from The Athletic. So Manchester United would have been prepared to take 40 million for Mainoo in the summer, a sign of how all in the Amorim project they were. They were backing Amorim. However, Manchester United was so committed to Amorim, they were prepared to sell Mainoo for £40 million. Mainoo is now expected to stay. I think them reports have kind of clashed over each other, but the basis of it is Manchester United was so committed to Ruben Amorim that they were prepared to sell Mainoo for 40 million, but Mainoo is now expected to stay. I'm buzzing that Mainoo's staying because I think there's an absolute quality player in there. I don't want to talk too much about the social media stuff, to be honest. I'm not too interested in it. I just don't really want to talk about it that much. I'm really not that interested in it. Do I think it's the greatest look? No. Am I sat here crying myself to sleep because he's liked a post that was tongue-in-cheek and a bit of banter? No. To be honest with you, no. It is what it is. I'm bothered about getting him on the pitch and seeing him perform. I've seen some people saying he wasn't injured. He was injured. He's had a calf injury. He was injured. I want to get him back on the pitch. I want to see him play football, and I think we've got a superstar talent in there, and I'm glad we've not lost him. Let's see what he can do. And I'm glad we are not selling him as of now. I think he needs a proper chance. Hopefully he can go on and do what we all think he can. Let's see. He's got to prove it now. Pressure's on, though. Pressure is on. And there's been so much talk and so much build-up about Mainoo. He's probably going to get an opportunity now. He needs to prove Amorim wrong, and he needs to go out there and perform the way we know he can and even take it up a level. So he might be a bit rusty at first because he's not been playing regular football, but I think people need to give him a chance to warm up into it, and then we need to get the Mainoo that we all know is in there on the pitch and firing, and he's got a lot to prove now, especially after all the external stuff. Do you know, I know it wasn't him, but when your brother's wearing free Mainoo at Old Trafford, like, that's not a good look. And then it's, it also puts massive pressure. When you're on the pitch, you then have got to perform. You really do, because you need to prove why Amorim was wrong. So I think he will do that. I think he's super talented. I think he is an example of what Manchester United is built upon. Academy graduates. He's Manchester through and through, and I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see him play. I actually think if Ole was caretaker manager, he'd probably get the best out of Mainoo. Who knows what'll happen, but yeah, he's going to be back and he's not being sold. Also, the fact that United were willing to sell him for 40 mil is mad to me. Like, it's absolutely mad. Mainoo, after that FA Cup final against Man City, man of the match, match winner, on fire, one of Manchester United's best players that season, first name on the team sheet, just like ridiculous. Going to the Euros, going to play in a Euros final, you know, he's on cloud nine. And of course, you've got to keep working, you've got to keep going, you can't think you've made it. And I don't think thought he did. It was just the Amorim who came in just didn't fancy him, did he? He didn't like him for his system. But Mainoo at that point was probably worth around 80 million. The fact United are going to sell an 80 million plus asset for 40 million. And people will say it's because they were backing Amorim. Let's be honest, it's probably because it would be pure profit. Because he's homegrown. Is it because they were backing Amorim, or is it because he was going to be pure profit and they felt they could get pure profit and it kind of coincided with the fact that Amorim wasn't probably going to use him? But that's another big red flag to me about Ruben Amorim. How can you not get the best out of Mainoo? That's another big red flag to me. How can you not be playing Mainoo in your team that is continuously losing? That was a big red flag. It really, really was. And look, Amorim might be proved right. Mainoo's got to prove it now. I don't think he will be. I think Mainoo will go out there and kill it, but he's got to prove it. Got more super chats coming in. So we have David3388 saying, no wonder United don't win anything and the board doesn't take us seriously if fans want Ole back or Glasner, who uses the same system as Amorim. I've said this multiple times now, but you know, if you've not heard it before, Oliver Glasner has played with a back four before. He's not married to that three at the back system the same way that Ruben Amorim was. There is still a chance he would come in and play with the back three. And if Glasner was to be the Manchester United manager, I said this yesterday and I'm going to say it again just to clarify it even further. In the interview, I would say, are you planning to play a back three? If you said yes, I'd say, bye-bye. No, I'm not having a back three at United again, anytime soon anyway. So Glasner has played with a back four. I think he said in interviews previously, he doesn't play a formation because he's married to it. He plays a formation because it suits the squad. So if he comes into Manchester United, I'd expect him to adapt to a back four. Look at what Xabi Alonso did at Real Madrid. You know, he played the three at the back. He came to Real Madrid. He knew it was Real Madrid. He knew Real Madrid had a way of playing, and he adapted to a back four. That's what I would expect Oliver Glasner to do. But you'd have to, you know, make that very, very clear from the offset that that's the way that we want to play. We've also got Jason Hanna 9912 saying, I hope United to bring back Ole just to remind the fans how rubbish of a coach he is. That's a very, very toxic super chat, Jason. We have John Patterson says, it does not matter who comes in, they will not be supported. Kev United 07 says, I think Nagelsmann is a strong one, modern, technically sharp. And Nagelsmann is someone that's very, very interesting, but we've barely been linked to him. Tom McBride 01 says, we live on a prayer that one day we wake up and we've been bought out by the Saudis. It will happen one day. We are Man United, hang tight, Reds. In our lifetime, United will have a takeover, I think. Just when it's going to happen. Billy Howlett says, this club just gets more embarrassing by the minute. People voting for Ole to come back have a head full of rocks. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. If you seriously disagree with it, that is absolutely fine. I couldn't believe that people, you know, thought a manager that had a 38% win record was good enough to take Manchester United forward. But look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I kind of see their side, and because they didn't want the manager merry-go-round because they thought he wasn't backed, and I understood that. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and some people want to see it, some people don't, and that's the beauty of this community. Everyone can share it. Alexander says, Keane, the board would be worried, I'll put that as. The Guy podcast says, Poch is coaching USA, he's not coming. Yeah, but he could go after that. Carlo Montana says, because managers could go after the World Cup and they could appoint them, and then after the World Cup they could join Manchester United. Carlo Montana 1986 says, Ole could work if they hired him an elite staff. Day FC says, can't they just get the class of 92 to be a management and coaching team? Don't know if that would work, to be honest with you. Do you know, like Gary Neville managed Valencia, it didn't go too well, did it? Do you know what I mean? No disrespect to Neville, I mean, he went back into punditry. That's what he's good at, but he wasn't good at managing a football team, which is why he left management and has not gone back to it. Josh the Giant Slayer says, Ole caused player power and played poor football. So I am Jake is saying, are we just trying to be like Chelsea? Feels like we follow their lead constantly. Sorry, I'm coping with dark humour today. United is my toxic relationship. I really hope we're not trying to follow Chelsea, because Chelsea fans are absolutely fed up to the back teeth of their ownership. I've spoke to a lot of them. Chelsea is not the model you want to follow. And do you know what I will say? I don't agree with Mark on everything, but he said something on his morning show which I thought was absolutely bang on the money. And he said if he was in charge of Manchester United, he'd bring in multiple 26 to 29 to 30-year-olds, experienced players that are still in their prime athletically, who can go out and win and are at the top of their game now. In order to be good in the future, like Mark said, you have got to be good now. If we keep buying the Sescos and the Dorgus of the world, they're not ready. They need the Cavani's ahead of them. They need the Luke Shaws ahead of them who can stay fit and, you know, be in that position continuously. They need the senior players ahead of them that can go and do it. We need a team that compete now. Like, as much as I want Sesko to do well, Amorim was right in the fact we should have got Ollie Watkins. Look at what he's doing for Villa. He's an experienced Premier League striker that can hold up the ball well, knows how to handle the pressure of the Premier League. And then once Watkins, even though people say he's not Haaland, no. But once you've got Watkins in, a good Premier League striker, and you're playing well as a team, and you fill all the other positions out like that with Premier League players that can play in the Premier League now and are at a good age now to, you know, kick on or at the top of their game, you move up, you get Champions League. And then you bring in the younger players to kind of, you know, nourish, and then you bring in more senior players and you go to the top of the Premier League. You can't get anywhere without building the right foundations. So we don't want to follow Chelsea's model, in my opinion. Brian and Stuff says, take the heat off the owners. They're all like every other journo, Beth, that always should be talking about, you think any manager will succeed under this ownership. Look, it's not been good so far, no. And yes, they need a lot of criticism. But I also don't want to sit here and say Manchester United are never going to be successful again. Like that, to me, it kills any sort of hope and dreams. I'm hoping somebody will be able to come in and make us successful. I'm hoping that. Look, of course, I don't think there'll be... I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson is a one of a kind, but he dealt with the Glazers for a long time and he still managed, because he was absolutely extraordinary, he still managed to, you know, win things and do things. But that's Sir Alex Ferguson. That's Sir Alex Ferguson. It's a different kettle of fish. This ownership has made a lot of bad decisions, but then surely somebody can come in and do better than what we're currently doing. Surely. Texas Die says, Poch will be a disaster, nothing but a random Champions League final to his name. Thank you everyone for getting your super chats in. Jellen Bennett says, good morning Beth, we currently have an open position for manager at Manchester United. We are clowns who don't know what we are doing and would love to make you the new scapegoat. Thank you very much, Jarlin. 3-man 2K6 says, Fletcher please, and Evans could be short term. Most positions covered from a coaching aspect are all ex-players, defenders, midfielders, attackers may work. Look, Moad says, Beth, keep your head up and ignore the Amorim lovers. Thank you very much. I'm never going to be scared to say my opinion, but I think everyone should be entitled to their opinion. David3388 says, no wonder United don't win anything with the board. It doesn't take us seriously when the fans want Ole back or Glasner, who uses the same system. I've done that one. Look, thank you very much for all your super chats. I've still got loads more to get through. So I'm just going to rattle through the news and I'll come back to more super chats. So keep getting them in at the end of the show. But make sure, guys, I'm very, very, very excited to hear from Darren Fletcher. It is the Burnley presser at 5 p.m. with Darren Fletcher, and Goldbridge is going to be live straight afterwards reacting to it. So make sure you are there straight after 5 p.m. Goldbridge will be reacting to Darren Fletcher's presser. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see what the mood is like in that presser, so make sure you stay tuned. Also, countdown to kickoff begins at 6:15 tomorrow for Burnley versus Manchester United. Darren Fletcher's first game in charge as the interim manager. Look, I want to read out some of these quotes. So, this is coming from Rob Dawson at the ESPN. There were times during Amorim's tenure when Amorim had doubts. He had to be talked into staying in January 2025 after a particularly bad run of form. After a game last February, Amorim revealed that he knew United wouldn't win just by watching how his players tied their laces before the warm-up. In the same conversation, Amorim confided his fear that the club was broken and that he didn't know how to fix it because players that he had inherited were fragile. In particular, he was shocked at what he saw as a lack of physicality within the squad, and on numerous occasions, Amorim became irate because the players were losing one-on-one duels often. Though Ten Hag's training involved a lot of running, Amorim asked his players to spend more time in the gym, especially during the summer tour of the United States. And look, I think a lot of what Amorim saw in the players was probably true. We've recruited poorly for a very long time, and there's been a mediocrity has been allowed to run freely at Manchester United. There's been a lack of standards. There has been a lack of standards, and I know for a fact, and I'm not going to reveal it, and people can say, you know, you've not got any sources, and I've never really claimed to have any sources, but I know for a fact that a senior player at Manchester United, when they came into Manchester United, when they joined the football club, they said to their agent they were shocked at how low the standards were. This was in the last 5 years. They were shocked at how low the standards were, and they thought to themselves, no way this is the standards of Manchester United. And they'd come from a club that was nowhere near Manchester United's status. And they were shocked. And they literally said to their agent, I'm going to have to help raise these standards. I'm not saying who it is, or you know, you can think what you want, but that is absolutely true. So at Manchester United, there's been allowed to be mediocrity for a long, long time. We use the words best in class, but we have to be best in class in every single department, and we're just not. But we have to ensure that we are. The standards have to be absolutely top drawer all across the football club. So I can understand that Amorim felt like he inherited not best in class. But also, do you know what? I get where Amorim's coming from. The players he inherited weren't the strongest squad. They probably did need more physicality, and he probably was frustrated at the lack of mentality. But at the same time, I'm sorry, 38% win rate. He barely won games, and his performances were overall poor. That squad is way better than what he's been able to get out of them. And look, even with the additions of Sonny Lamans, Mbeumo, Cunha, even Sesko, who still needs to definitely improve, he should have been doing better this season. Ruben Amorim probably was dealt a bad hand, but if you look at other managers' win rate, Ten Hag was probably dealt a bad hand. He had around 50-odd%. Mourinho had about around 50-odd%. Ole had around, 49, 50-odd%. All these managers had at least late 40s, over 50%, I think. Ruben Amorim, I think all of them had over 50% at least. Amorim's on 38%. And even his wins aren't that convincing if you go back. So Amorim, of course, you know, I can understand he was frustrated that he probably walked into something he thought was going to be better than what it was. And he was frustrated at how the club had been run and at how behind we were. But also, as a manager, as a coach, you've got to do better. I'm sorry, you've got to do better. He's not used excuses. This is obviously an inside report, but I don't buy that excuse. I can understand and I can say, look, that's a really unfortunate situation that you've walked into, but it's your job to turn that around. And of course, you need the backing of your hierarchy to do so. And maybe that wasn't there, but it doesn't make up for the results that followed. It really doesn't. Also, This is just coming out from Jamie Jackson. This is breaking news, everyone. Jason Wilcox considers Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a prime candidate for the Manchester United caretaker role. His strong pedigree at United makes him a serious option, and he is viewed as being able to affect results positively and restore a feel-good factor. That is from Jamie Jackson. Jason Wilcox considers Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a prime candidate for the Manchester United caretaker role. His strong pedigree at United makes him a serious option, and he is viewed as being able to affect results positively and restore a feel-good factor. Look, guys, Ole's going to be back at the wheel, I think. I think it is. Romano's pushing it out. Jamie Jackson, who's got very good links to the club, is pushing it out. And do you know what? He will bring back good vibes, and he will hopefully bring back goals and good performances. If, and it's a big if, it is just for the caretaker period, I welcome it with open arms. But it can't become a permanent position. I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and that's probably why I'm saying yes to the caretaker thing. Like, I'm voting with my heart, not my head there. I was gutted when it had to come to an end. I was. Even though I was on board, I thought, you know, it was time to let him go for the sake of Manchester United, because we weren't getting to where we needed to be at that point in the project. I was on board with him going at the time, but I was gutted because I love Ole. Bringing him back as a caretaker, hopefully he can bring the squad together. He can get us Champions League football. He can play attacking football. We can enjoy ourselves at Old Trafford, get him back in for the derby so we can beat Pep Guardiola in the derby. We've got some tough fixtures coming up. He's usually good in big games. But what we can't do is, if he does well, say, give him the job permanently, give him the job permanently. We've done that, and we shouldn't go back in time. Just as the caretaker, yes. As a permanent manager, no, for me. As much as I'd love it, I don't want to go back in time with making him the permanent manager. Are INEOS just doing this because they know it'll pull on the fans' heartstrings and they want to deflect criticism from the media, from the pundits in the media, and from the fans who are currently in uproar at how they've run the football club? Potentially. Very high chance that is happening. Very high chance they have sat together and thought, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's offered himself to us. He's got a good track record as a caretaker manager. And if he comes in, Roy Keane's not going to say anything. Nicky Butt's not going to say anything. Paul Scholes isn't going to say anything. You know, Gary Neville's not going to say anything. Because they know Ole, they're his friend. And also, the fans have an affinity to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They'll be singing his name in the stadium. They absolutely love him. So maybe we'll get a bit of pressure off us for the time being. That could be a big factor in it. But just because Ole's caretaker manager doesn't mean that people can't talk about the mistakes that have been made at the football club since INEOS have come in. Absolutely not. But maybe they'll think it will kind of steer away some of that pressure that is on there right now, because a lot of people are frustrated with that. But look, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we know he cares about the club, and he has proven that as a caretaker manager, he can get success. But we can't have the same thing again. No matter how exciting the football is, no matter how good the vibes are, we can't make it permanent. But as a caretaker, he'd put a smile on my face. And I still stand by the fact that is the best football I've watched post-Fergie. Do you know what's interesting? I spoke to a City fan the other day, one of my friends, and I said, who do you think United should get in? And he went, I'm genuinely saying this, I think you should get Ole back. He was the best manager you've had post-Fergie, but interesting. Very interesting. No to permanent, yes to caretaker. Let's see what happens. Ole back, no 52%, yes 48%, and that's out of nearly 12,000 votes in the comments. We've got loads of super chats coming in. Look, if it gives me some positive energy for a few months, I'll take what I can get. At this point. Also, Oliver Glasner on being the bookies' favourite to become the new Man United manager. He said, I'm not allowed to bet. I don't look at it. I'm Crystal Palace manager, and it makes no sense for you to ask me more questions about it. Generic response that he's going to say as Crystal Palace manager. I wouldn't expect anything less. That was in his recent press conference, I think. Also, just a quick one before I go for your super chats and a round off the show as well. Keep getting them in. I want to hear your opinions. This is what I really wanted to bring in, right? This was from Laurie Whitwell's article. While we're talking about Jason Wilcox, because apparently Jason Wilcox is the guy that sees Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as the prime candidate to be the caretaker interim manager in Manchester United. This is apparently what's happened with Jason Wilcox in September. So Laurie Whitlow reported this. I'm a coach at heart, Jason Wilcox told the Manchester United Former Players Association in September. That's a strength in my role now, but it also causes me a bit of a problem because I always want to interfere in what managers are doing. Look, I've wanted to find so many ways to back the hierarchy, back what Jason Wilcox is doing, and I wanted to find the positives, but no manager with any sort of reputation and self-belief will accept Jason Wilcox interfering with their coaching and their methods in managing the team. They just won't. Like, they just won't. So I don't know if he has interfered, but if that's true, the quote, I always want to interfere in what the managers are doing. Well, he kind of has, hasn't he? He told Amorim he's got to go to a back four and he's not getting the players for a back three, which, to be fair, I think we could all see that system wasn't working, and it's very, very hard to spend money on a system that has zero evidence of working at Manchester United in 14 months. So it's a difficult situation, but no way on this earth that our director of football should be intervening with how a manager manages or a head coach coaches the football team. They just shouldn't be. No manager with any sort of self-belief, pride or reputation is going to want interference. The only way that would ever work is if there was complete alignment. Complete alignment. Like Ruben Amorim and Carlos Fernandez, the set-piece coach. They'd have to be that close for it to work. So that, I mean, I don't think Wilcox has even been a manager before, has he? That just cannot be happening. Do you think Pep Guardiola would accept that? And I know Pep obviously has massive status because he's been one of the best managers in the world in recent times. But do you think any manager would accept that? They won't. So that can't be happening. But I just wanted to bring it in, to be honest with you. I wanted to bring that in. So, yeah, look, I've tried to see the positives, but that just can't happen. I'm all for having a collaborative model. But one thing, as much as I think Ruben Amorim needs to go, one thing he said that I absolutely think is true. The director of football needs to do their job. The scouting department needs to do their job, and the manager or the head coach needs to do their job. The director of football should not be telling the head coach how to manage the team. And, the head coach shouldn't be telling the scouts, how to do their job. It's a collaborative model and they all come together. And I actually think the head coach should probably get not the final say, but a really big say when it comes to the final decisions. If they're managing the team well and they're doing a good job and they're in alignment of how they want to play football, it should be a collaborative model, but there's no way that the director of football should be coming in and saying, look, don't really like how you handled that situation. I think you should do this, or you need to do this. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. We've got some more super chats coming in here. We've got Away Steve saying, told you Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will take over till the summer. Wait till you see De Ligt magically back on the team for the next games and later Vavel/Barada to leave. I don't think De Ligt was injured because of Amorim. I don't think that. A few people have said that. I don't think that's the case. Unless there's actual evidence, but I doubt that's the case. Barfight Studio says, I really just heard good vibes again. Oof, this club just gets worse and worse. INEOS appeasing fans, and it is a clear sign that they are out of their depth. Do you think they've just gone and got Ole because there's been a cry for Ole from a lot of the fan base? I mean, they kept Ten Hag because the fan base wanted to keep Ten Hag. Can't succumb to fan pressure if you know what you're doing. Tony says, we don't have pace in that to play his style. It's crazy and they are going to hold back the fans. 3man 2K6 says Ole Fletcher and Evans temp. I meant not, please. Gress Clipper says might as well build that circus tent stadium now because this management/ownership certainly fits it. Ian Carlton says, hi Beth, wanted to give you my support. I'm a long-term watcher of the United Stand and it's clear you're passionate about the club and being part of the United Stand. Keep it up. Thank you very, very much, Ian Carlton. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Nos Gaming says, the man has been sacked before. Manchester United therefore show some dignity and sign someone else. Replacing one SAP manager with another SAP manager, it just doesn't feel right. It is only interim, guys. Cavabat says, Mainoo highly overrated. I don't agree, but let's see. 3-man says, Fletcher, please, and Evans could not be short-term. Most positions covered from a coaching aspect and are all ex-players. Defender, midfield and attack may work. Chris Jackson says, just signed a new midfielder, the lad called Mainoo. Well, that's it. We're not doing any January signings, folks, but actually, we've got a new midfield signing, Mainoo. Look at this world-class talent we've got. 20 years old, ready to go in the Man United midfield, just back from injury. Let's get him in there. Jellen Bennett says, good morning, Beth. We are currently... I've done that one. Thank you very much for all your super chats. Awais again saying, told you Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will take over till the summer. Thank you very much. I've got through all the super chats there. There's been loads in. Thank you, everyone, for all your support. Smash a like on the video right now because there's been loads of you watching, but we need to get the likes up because it helps the channel and it supports everything that we're doing in this community. So please smash a like on the video. I'm just being told there is more news to bring in. So it's also coming out from TalkSport that Michael Carrick is open to returning to Manchester United as interim boss. So not only is the big reports about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being caretaker manager, there's also big reports now coming out about Michael Carrick. Would you prefer is interim until the end of the season, Ole or Carrick? Who would you prefer? Let me know. Just quickly. We'll end off the show with this. Ole or Carrick, Ole or Carrick, Ole or Carrick. Who would you prefer? I think both would do a good job as interim. I think both would do a good job as interim. They know the club and, I mean, Ole proved to do it before and Carrick, when he had his interim run, was fantastic. Very split. Very split. Maybe, I think Ole's just winning. But it's very split in there. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching the show. I mean, there was more I wanted to get into about Semenyo and why that broke down, but we just didn't have time. So many super chats, so many things to talk about, and I really appreciate everyone for getting involved. But like I said, 5 p.m, Darren Fletcher presser, straight after, Goldbridge will be reacting to it. Make sure you go and check that out. And also, as well, we have all the countdown to kick-off and the watch-alongs and everything starting at 6:15 tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday evening at 8 p.m, it is an Arsenal versus Liverpool watch-along with Mark on That's Football. It's going to be a cracking week, everyone. Let's try and be positive, eh? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.